Good evening and welcome to this very special edition of a library subcommittee talk show with a very famous author, talked to by another very famous man who I will introduce in a short while from now. As is the custom, we will start off with a small video on the Library of the Bengal Club.
Welcome to the oldest social and business club in India, the Bengal Club. Set up in 1827 as a meeting place where people from the military, the judiciary, businessmen and professionals of the British Empire gathered together. Independence brought about a change in clientele, but not in character. Professionals, businessmen, people from the service sector, bureaucrats, and academics started rubbing shoulders in the corridors of this hallowed institution. Welcome to the Library of the Bengal Club, an institution within an institution. A veritable collection of books, the like of which you're unlikely to find anywhere else in the city, and indeed in this country. Recordings by famous speakers who have spoken here in the library, and a collection of books on any subject that you may want to look for. Books by Nobel laureates, books by Bengal Club members, books on political science, philosophy, ethics and morality, food and drinks, sports and culture. Mention the subject and it's available here. There is also a small Wi-Fi corner where you can browse the internet in peace. They say there is no subject under the sun. If you're looking for a book, you will find it on these shelves of the Library of the Bengal. Envy the books, enjoy the collection, but above all, celebrate in the ambience of this wonderful library, the Library of the Bengal Club. Welcome to see the other famous individuals who have launched their books on this site. And recordings of that book launch are also available in this library. Welcome to the Library of the Bengal Club. On behalf of the Library Subcommittee, welcome to this program.
That allows me an opportunity to introduce to you the main person this evening who's going to be anchoring the program. And that is none other than Mr. Anirudhha Lahiri, who I've had the good fortune to know for a long time. Mr. Lahiri graduated from St. Xavier's College. And as you know, the motto of this college is nihil ultra, nothing beyond. And decided to show in his life that he followed the motto of this college. Because after training at the IIT Madras and after doing some training at Wharton and beginning his career with Mafatlal, he spent 3 decades climbing up the ladder in a career that seemed to have no snakes, only ladders, as he reached the point in Unilever when he became the chairman and spent a lot of time abroad before he returned to India at the beginning of this century to be associated with ABP Private Limited. As, in fact, became its managing director and remained that till 2005. He also, just for diversification, joined the Chatterjee Group in 2006. And like in every other organization, ended up as their president. More recently, having been president, director, and chairman of every single organization he had been associated with, he got bored of these titles and decided, in a spirit of entrepreneurship, to launch two companies, which he founded: the Trishul Engineering Solutions Private Limited, an engineering design service company, and the Sigwald Leadership and Training Academy, both rather surprisingly headquartered in Kolkata. He's, of course, the founder chairman of both. Since we have about an hour for this program, I will have to terminate his introduction here, because if I was to complete his introduction, we wouldn't have any more time left for the rest of the program. So illustrious has been the career of the man who I now have the good fortune on behalf of the Bengal Club to welcome to the dais, Mr. Anirudhha Lahiri, please.
Thank you, Dr. Chatterjee. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And let me begin by adding my own word of welcome to this evening's program. We are here today to celebrate Dr. Ashok Ganguly, a colossus in the world of industry, who truly does not need any introduction. Really, what does one say about a man who was the chairman of Hindusthan Unilever and the executive director of Unilever PLC and NV, one headquartered in UK and the other in Netherlands, who was the independent director of British Airways and external director of the Reserve Bank of India, who was the non-executive chairman of ICI India and chairman of the board of governors of ICI India and chairman of the board of governors of IIT Kanpur, who was on the Prime Minister's Science Advisory Council and a nominated member of the Rajya Sabha, and who is recipient of the Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan, and also the commander of the British Empire, CBE. We simply say, thank you, Dr. Ganguly. Good evening, Dr. Ganguly.
Good evening.
Dr. Ganguly was born in 1935 in his ancestral home in Patna and obtained his BSc degree from Jai Hind College, Mumbai, and PhD from the University of Illinois. His extraordinary career was defined by the 35 years plus he spent with Unilever. Dr. Ganguly's life's journey has now crossed another milestone, and that is his memoir, Afterness, Home and Away, which he describes, and I quote him, as the misty musings of a lifetime near the end of the inning, the joys and the sadness, people and events. Looking back, it's just that, but only once. The story published by Penguin Random House spans 80 years of his life and provides valuable insight into his thinking process and decisions-making skills that have touched so many of us who have been privileged to know him and work with him. The book is honest and reflective, personal, and yet revelatory. Dr. Ganguly has many stellar achievements to his credit. His legacy is truly legendary. And yet to me, what makes the book truly unputdownable, if I borrow the tagline telegraph, and serves as a lesson and serves a life lesson, is his humility and simplicity, and the author tells the story of his remarkable journey. The life and work of Dr. Ashok Ganguly is a shining example of the creative role of enterprise in the development of our country and the social transformation thereto. And this is a testimonial from our former Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh. Beautiful. Well, one couldn't agree more. So without much ado, over to the legend we know as Dr. Ganguly and his memoir, Afterness, Home and Away. Now, what I'd like to do is take Dr. Ganguly's a little bit of his time and ask him a few questions, which I hope will benefit all of us. But I have to keep my eyes on the watch, because at 6:45 sharp, I want you to start the interaction with Dr. Ganguly. And I will not delay that. I will not delay that. So I have a lot of questions. 7:45, sorry, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Dilip. So 7:45 sharp, I'll throw open the discussion to the floor. And I'm going to leave all the remaining questions open, because the whole purpose of this evening is to give you an opportunity to talk to Dr. Ganguly and for Dr. Ganguly to answer your own questions. So, Dr. Ganguly, if I may start with your permission, my first question on Afterness, Home and Away, is that I believe it's a story that was only waiting to be told. And I'm sure that it was all neatly filed away in the corners of your mind. So what exactly prompted you, sir, to press the print button? What was the precise trigger which says that this is the time to tell your story?
Well, Anirudhha, first of all, I did not know you were going to question me. I thought we were going to have a conversation. So I will take this as a conversation rather than an interrogation. if you don't mind. I say that lightheartedly. But I did not write the chapters of the book with publication in mind. I wrote it really for my young grandchildren who were growing up. Can you hear me? Anirudhha, can you hear me?
A little louder, wee bit.
Okay, so is that better?
Yes, much better.
All right, so I was writing, I wrote these chapters and events over a period of time for my grandchildren, for them to know what was our family all about. What were we all about? The provocation to publish it as a book, to describe it, or rather the encouragement, is entirely due to one person. That is our former colleague and very good friend, Mr. Gopalakrishnan. I hope he's joined us this evening to listen to the ramblings.
He's on a
Listen to the
flight.
ramblings. Sorry.
What's happening? Oh. He logged out, is he? I see. So this IT, these problems never seems to disappear. These glitches, so-called.
That's why it stays there. That's why I think it should be there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Can't see you, but we can hear you.
Well, my apologies. Sorry, I'm trying to get my my video. I don't seem to be. I got it here. Now you should be able to see me.
Yes, we are able to see you.
My apologies. I should have turned off my phone, which I, of course, did not, and therefore we got into a bit of a kerfuffle. My apologies to the audience and to you. So, as I said, the person responsible for persuading me to publish this book was our old colleague and good friend, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, who of course is a very well-known author and belongs to Calcutta. And he's the one who persuaded, he went on persuading me, and I thought it was not a bad idea. That's the origin of the book.
But I thought, Dr. Ganguly, that actually, when I talk about the trigger, which says that yes, it's time to tell the story, it was probably Nivedita and Amrita.
No.
The trigger?
No, the trigger was Mr. Gopalakrishnan, is Mr. Gopalakrishnan, and will remain as Mr. Gopalakrishnan, who of course is very well known as a former vice chairman of Hindusthan Unilever and a board member of Tata Sons subsequently, and who is a mutual friend of both of us. Our daughters were always loving and caring, but they got very excited about the idea of publishing the book. But I think the credit is due to Gopalakrishnan.
Right. Dr. Ganguly, you've climbed the rungs of many, many ladders, several ladders. And every time you have reached the top. And yet, your life's choices have often been dichotomous. By which I mean, you wanted to go into research, but ended up in the corporate world. You studied biotech, but made a career in management. You did not want to have anything to do with politics, by your own admission, but played an active role in the Rajya Sabha, although nominated. So looking back, do you feel, at least sometimes, that some of the ladders that you climbed so successfully in your life might not have been leaning against your chosen walls? Is that right?
I know I would not agree with that. I would say that I imagined a future, and when I look back, after the tragedy of my wife's passing away, and when I thought about our whole life, I found out that life had been exceptionally kind to me and my wife and my family. And at some point in time, it's worth reflecting back. And all that happened was that I had a certain dream, and the dream was overtaken by dreams of other people and myself, and I enjoyed every moment of it. For example, I knew that I would be a disaster in politics. The people tried to persuade me a number of times to stand for election, become an ambassador, all this. I would have been a total failure. And also, it is fortunate that I could think that way, because I might have been attracted, and I was, for a brief period attracted. I said, oh, that sounds interesting. Thank God that better sense prevailed. And I did not, and it was all my decision, really, not to get astray.
So, in other words, you don't have any regrets, Dr. Ganguly.
I don't.
The way you chalked out the course.
No, because I tell you, this is the biggest mistake we make. We all make this mistake. That we think we are determining our future. We are deciding our future. And this is what we want to be. And I'm very unpopular in that way. I used to be unpopular that way because I said that that's a load of rubbish. There are half a dozen other people who are deciding your future. Now, whether you want to follow the future or not, it's up to you. And you may sometimes agree, you may not sometimes agree. But to think that you're planning your own career and future, I think you're wasting your energy. And you're more likely to get frustrated rather than to end up your life happily.
Okay. I'll a couple of questions later, I'll put a question to you, which is related to this. Now, Dr. Ganguly, you are clearly disappointed with the manner in which the country is evolving currently. It's a rather sensitive question, but nevertheless, I can ask you. And why do I say this? Because I would like to quote from the prologue of the book, A Speck in Timelessness. And you say, I harbor a growing sense of disquiet of late regarding certain emerging trends, which I wish to briefly share. You further expanded on this, and I'm quoting you again. With the accumulated history of the ruled, independent India emerged as a republic, as did the Constitution of India, protecting the rights of every citizen, the independence of the judiciary, and an unfettered media without caveats and preconditions. Recent attempts to change India into a majoritarian Hindu nation can only be at the cost of dismembering the Indian Constitution and disowning the nation's solemn promise to we the people by the founding fathers of our republic. Now, I'm sure that your view will find resonance with many over here, present here today, and in fact, across the country. My question to you really is, what would be the solution, Dr. Ganguly? And what, in your opinion, prevents most people from considering politics as a suitable and a viable profession?
So I can't talk about other people. I mean, like all human beings, one's expectation of what should be and the reality, what it is never going to match unless all of us are ambitious for a better and wealthier country where we don't have a largest number of people going to bed not fully fed, I'm not disappointed with the progress. I'm like all human beings. Possibly I have the same weakness as all of you, is that we want everything to happen during our lifetime. And that is the naivety of hope. And if I have a naivety of hope and I've expressed it in a certain manner, that shows that I'm a normal fella. I'm 88 years old. I'm in my 88th year. And I really have no strong feelings either way. I said, somebody asked me in one of such interviews that when do you think India will become a developed country? And I said, not in my lifetime, but it will.
So what you're saying, Dr. Ganguly, is you're disappointed
No,
because
I'm
it's
not
all
disappointed.
about.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's all right.
I don't know what you're leading up to. I'm not disappointed. I'm stating facts. I'm stating apprehensions. But I have never been disappointed in my life, other than in my personal life. More recently. I'm not disappointed. You know, when you reach my age, Anirudhha, you realize that, you know, when you were born, you did not know that this is the only life you are going to have. And then when you are on your last leg, then you understand that, you know, you had a wonderful time. This is what was possible in your lifetime. And you can then ask for cakes or sandesh or whatever it is you want. You're not going to get it in this lifetime. So, you know, it is, what do they call it? Dukkha bilashita, as it is said in Bengali. Amaro odhikar ache dukkha bilash kara.
So that's good to know, Dr. Ganguly. Coming from you, you know, we become more confident in the sense that you are very hopeful. It's only a question of time, but you're very hopeful.
No, I'm absolutely confident. We will have our ups and downs, but we will have more ups and downs.
Right. Now, Dr. Ganguly, you know, no sportsman, as you know well, no matter how great, wins every match they set out to play. This is only motherhood. You too would have experienced setbacks and failures. Can you, sir, recall any one occasion when you had to accept defeat? And more importantly, what was your takeaway from it?
Well, Anirudhha, if you have really read the book, my first 15 years of my life is a litany of failures.
True.
And subsequently, of course, in the professional lives and all that, you don't always get what you're aiming for in terms of interactions, development, government controls, this, that, and the other. But if you don't have that, you are really not doing your job. You're not fighting against odds. You're not trying to persuade those who do not wish to be persuaded. And therefore, I don't think they're disappointments. They're the realities of different points of view. And one has to learn how to deal with them. How to deal with them, how to overcome different points of view, or to understand different points of view which you may not have thought about. So it's a normal life that you and I have led, many of all our colleagues. So the question of disappointment is rather a luxury.
Right. So what would be, sir, your one sentence advice to all of us?
I have no advice.
How to deal with failures?
No, I have no advice. I realized that people like Prakash Tandon, Vasant Rajadaksha, T. Thomas, they had, and their roles and their larger-than-life presence had much more influence on me than I realized when I was growing up. And so I do not have the arrogance of advice, giving advice. Because everybody, either you have it in you or you have it to a certain extent or you don't have it.
No, but we've all learned from your advice. I know. I mean, it's all valuable advice.
But your own experience on it, although you did very well professionally, the chairman or whoever was presiding over this function described your enormous achievements. Your enormous achievements, both in Hindusthan Unilever and after Hindusthan Unilever, and in your academic areas. So I think modesty is a bit unbecoming.
Right. Dr. Ganguly, thank you very much. You know, my hat will not fit my head now. I have just bought one for the cold season, you know. Now, one revelation that would come as a surprise to many of us here. And that's after you read the book. The books are all here. That surprise is your brush with palm readers. Vishuddha, an acquaintance of yours at the university, and your dear friend, and one much more serious about palmistry, Kishan Khanna. Now that begs the question that is often asked of achievers like you. What, according to you, plays a bigger role in success? Dr. Ganguly, destiny or drive? Luck or labor?
None of those. None of those.
Then what does?
It's the people who develop other people's, who work for them, that determines your future. Your potential, if you think you have potential and you should get here, there, everywhere, you're more likely, or you're absolutely likely to be more disappointed in life. Other than spending your time developing people who report to you, and you get pride in developing others rather than looking after your own development. None of those. And as far as palmistry is concerned, Vishuddha was, was a different kind of chap. But this chap, my friend Khanna, he was a serious student. And we used to, I was a bachelor at that time, and over a glass of beer, he would read, he understood palmistry, but I had forgotten all about it. It is when I recall that when I was a bachelor and we were having a glass of beer at my home or at his home, and my good friend Kalyan Bosch, who was our neighbor, it was a pastime really. If you take palmistry seriously, boy, you got a problem.
That's true. But Dr. Ganguly, there was no attraction because you were obviously interested in the output of the reading. The palmist, what he says, how he interprets the lines in your palm. But you didn't even have you were not a palmist. So you didn't even have the pleasure, as you said in your book, of holding the hands of the beautiful Caucasian women. So because you never held their hand, they only read for you.
No. No. You see, the point is this, that, you have this birth, Janmapatrika. Everybody gets a, and if you start believing in all that, you've got a serious problem. That it is socially required, I accept it. And there are a lot of things socially required, but if you get them primacy in your life, you got a serious problem.
Right, I understand. Now, I just got a couple of questions and I stop there, no more, because I have to give you the time. That's a promise. Now, Dr. Ganguly, there were many watershed initiatives that were taken during your time. Your predecessors as well, but I'm referring to the initiatives that were taken in your time. For example, distributed manufacturing. It brought about a complete change in our operations. The business model that was created for popular detergents, lowering unit prices of products, making it more affordable to the people who are being inducted into levers or introduced to levers products. And by the introduction of sachets, there are so many more that are mentioned in your book or been referred to in your book. All of these were significant. But which among these would you consider as truly revolutionary?
Anirudhha, I don't want to bore people because I value them all as customers or potential customers of our products. So I don't want to bore them with the details of what you and I might be privy to, except for one. All the lists that you have talked about innovation and change, the people responsible were my colleagues. I happened to be the chairman of Hindusthan Unilever, but it was colleagues like Shuru Sen, Sanjay Khosla, yourself, Debu, Bhattacharya, Shushin Doctor. They were all responsible for delivering this and making a success out of it. I can spend the next 10 minutes listing the colleagues who did it. I happen to be the chairman. I might have facilitated it, but I don't take credit for it. And I don't think that people are interested in knowing about the ups and downs of Hindustan Unilever per se. They get enough of it in the newspapers and magazines.
As usual, Dr. Ganguly, you've been very modest. But I can recall how you drove yourself. Of course, the others were there, but you teamed up with them to drive these initiatives, and bring the benefits home.
Well, I was paid for it. That was my job.
Right. So one question, the second last one, that I want to ask tonight. And this is a bit tricky one, but, feel free to answer it as you wish. Reading your, I was most interested reading your chapter on the experience of being a Rajya Sabha member. And you say how it's decided who's going to ask the questions and how they're going to be asked and the time you distributed, rationed actually, and time and all that. I wanted to ask you, does it really have a function? I'm talking about the Rajya Sabha. Does it really have a function in Indian democracy? Or has it been rendered completely dysfunctional?
No, I don't think it's dysfunctional. I think the politicians take it very seriously. Even I took it very seriously. There is an environment in Delhi, both in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, and there are certain responsibilities other than the money bills, that the deliberations of the Rajya Sabha or the amendments that they bid to different bills and all that is very, very serious. And I might say that, do the nominated members like me have an important role? It might have been so in the earlier days. But you're treated equally well. But, having avoided politics all my life, I had to make a mistake somewhere. So, but I enjoyed my time there, especially the MP LAD scheme, that Member of Parliament Local Area Development Scheme, which allowed nominated members to spend 5 crores a year. So in 6 years, you got 30 crores of budget. to build projects anywhere in the country as nominated member. As an elected member by the assemblies, you have to do it in your constituencies. But I had the greatest pleasure, especially in the Northeast, in Uttarakhand, in Assam, in Orissa, and some in Maharashtra. In completing these projects, I've written a separate book on that, which is of limited interest. But overall, I think I would never denigrate the Rajya Sabha. It is a very important arm of the Indian political system, and its checks and balances also on issues that are taken up by the Lok Sabha.
Are these infrastructure projects, Dr. Ganguly?
These are mostly upgrading of schools, hospitals, then local arts and crafts, and so it is just building, proper roads where elephants destroy crops in Assam and all that, providing protective barriers. And they're just innumerable projects. 30 crores is a lot of money.
Healthcare too?
Sorry?
Healthcare too? Healthcare.
Healthcare also, rural healthcare centers, upgrading them, providing them with connectivity with the main hospitals, etc. It's a very exciting experience.
That's good.
Wow.
So that's why you enjoyed your term.
Enjoyment is I think, overused term. I thought, I have to at least pretend to think that I may have added some residual value, which I doubt very much.
And Dr. Ganguly, finally, before I throw the floor open to the audience, where I'm sure very keen to, ask you questions and more importantly, receive your answers, let me urge you to share with us one thing, which, even though very significant, you have opted not to include in the book.
Sorry, will you repeat that, Anirudhha?
I said that I want to know if there's one thing which, even though very significant, you have opted not to include in the book.
No, but it's more of an omission rather than purposely done thing. I find that the overwhelming influence on a satisfied life is played by the family. I was exceptionally fortunate to have a wife and daughters and a home that I never even thought and provided with me with the to go on the world and not have any of the burdens, concerns, but the sheer happiness, togetherness, and comfort of how it happened. Maybe I could have described it in greater, but I know a lot of people who have drawn out their future, how they will do, and when they start getting frustrated, they then they mount pressure on their children to achieve what they have not been able to achieve, for example, or where their homes become a source of discord. That is really soul-destroying, life-destroying. I was very fortunate that I had a home of 150% joy, comfort, and love. And possibly I could have described that in greater detail, but I thought it was too personal to find a place of greater description compared to what I've given.
I'm sure, but that's wonderful, Dr. Ganguly. Really, that's wonderful. I mean, you often forget that part of your life. Now, gentlemen, I will now promise to shut up and allow you to interact with Dr. Ganguly directly. Dr. Ganguly, you have many friends here, you know, many people who know you from various walks of life, but many you know. I'm going to ask Deepak, you have a question, sir?
I don't know. I just wanted to mention one thing.
Yes.
Today's program is being jointly sponsored by the Telegraph. And I want to acknowledge that I spent several years as the chairman of the board of Anandobajar Potrika. And my personal friendship with Obhik Sarkar and Arun Sarkar and many other colleagues, including you, while we were in Anandobajar, is something I will always remember fondly.
I'm sure, Dhruvo, you will carry the message to ABP. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Now, may I just take the liberty of asking Deepak, who is here and who knows you so well, to just lead the interaction. So, Deepak, can you just start the ball rolling? One question to you, the first one.
First of all, let me thank you for, First of all, let me thank you for offering this wonderful...
Hold it close to your...
Let me thank you for offering this wonderful book of yours. I have read it, and a couple of weeks ago, and I enjoyed reading every bit of it. It's a reflective book, insightful, and also in many parts poignantly personal. Thank you very much for that. Let me, since Anirudhha is so keen that I set the ball rolling by asking a question. For those who haven't not yet read the book, but let me quote from one of your chapters, which is episodes and interactions, where, you know, the cabinet secretaries around 1980s, the cabinet secretary asks you, Ashok, how long will you continue to sell soaps? And you reply, I forget the name of the cabinet secretary, that as long as you have a bath every day. And it's a wonderfully witty repartee, but it doesn't quite answer the question, does it? Considering your background in technology, science, and of course in industry and management, and also the fact that offers from the highest echelons of power, from PMO's office, came more than once at the peak of your career to join hands with and serve the nation. You considered these offers but spurned them. So my question is, what exactly is behind this magnificent obsession in selling soaps?
Well, thank you, Deepak, but I did not have an obsession to sell soap. I happened to be in the business of selling soap. And I was being very honest, because the question was a loaded question. You realize that he was also possibly provoked by the powers that who may be. He said, find out why is Ashok reluctant to come into politics. And therefore, my repertory was more of a natural reaction. And I used to be a little naughty in my young days when I said that as long as you're going to have a bath every morning. The point of the fact is that I was extremely proud of what I was doing. I was extremely happy. I cannot talk about my success. Somebody else can talk about my success. But there was a dignity, there was a complexity, there was a challenge in what I was doing. And to underestimate that, even as while we were having lunch together in his office, he was a very close friend of mine, the cabinet secretary. I said, Pratap, I would never join politics. And then later on, this conversation went on. I mean, this was the repertory that I wanted to produce, and it just came to my mind. But to know what you're good at and to have an inkling that you will not be good at something, I think is a very great source of strength, which I no longer underestimate. I didn't think about it at that time.
Excellent. gentleman there.
Good evening, sir. I'm Krishnendu Das from CMA. Krishnendu Das from CMA. Sir, in your lifetime, you spend more of time on the liver. Would you share some of the points which is uniquely practiced in labor, but not practiced in any other industries in your time? My second question, sir, is the family business in present is breaking up. What is the main reasons of breaking up? How can we bound it off? Is it the old industry like engineering, chemicals are breaking up? It's difficult to be bounded to family business. If you share some of the view, thank you, sir.
Well, I think the first question, if I were to react to it at all, would be very arrogant, because there are many successful companies in India other than levers. I'm proud of lever, but that does not exclude that I do not acknowledge even family or non-professionally managed businesses are very, very successful. Number two, I have a hypothesis that when we became independent, I think it suited both the politicians to have a socialist pattern of planning and change, because we were short of resources. And it suited the family businesses of those days also, at least some of them, not all, at least some of them, to have a sort of monopoly. Multinationals in those days were seen as the dregs of the colonial group. So multinationals were very uncooperative. People like Prakash Tandon and Vasant Rajadaksha Thomas who changed the views of the government as to what professional management was all about. And that has, as it started, because that was not a sustainable proposition. So as it started being a drag on the Indian economy, the younger people who went to the IIMs, IITs and other places, and mind you, the IT business in India started almost in a stealth. The government had nothing to do with it. There were a few people, pioneers, who started it at the turn of the century. And that it was the trigger. The discovery of the semiconductor was the trigger of entrepreneurship around the world. And it infected India at the turn of the century by an accident of a software which the world had given up, but India still had continued with it. And after that, nobody could stop it. It could not stop the large companies. It could not stop the graduates. And the joint families also, the brighter of the people, they said, we want to also join this great explosion and change and not depend on having an advantage over multinationals. Sorry, that's a long answer.
Pradeep, yes, sir. Can you announce your name, Pradeep?
Yes, Pradeep Kakkar. I used to teach at the IIM and have wandered around various aspects of business, currently with an NGO. Sir, I wanted to ask you, in the context of social problems that we are facing in India now, many years ago, Martin Luther King had used a phrase, the fierce urgency of now. If we look at the Indian context, there are several problems which demand attention and a voice because of their fierce urgency. The question to you, sir, is why is the corporate sector, whose voice can be so powerful and so important, why is the corporate sector by and large a silent bystander? Why is it that if we try to think of people who speak out, we can count them on the lines of one finger, Rahul Bajaj, perhaps, one or two others. So why is it that the corporate sector doesn't speak out, given the nature of the problems in the country?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. Thank you, Mr. Kakkar. The point is, you want to accomplish something. You are not looking for publicity and praise. You accomplish much more by private conversation and persuasion. And it has been the experience that I inherited and I practiced. People who are successful in business don't want to see their pictures every day in the newspaper and be controversial. And therefore, you achieve much more by not being in the public domain and achieve what you wish to achieve, by not embarrassing the government, not going against it, because then you're scoring points, you're not scoring success.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, please. Please.
Good evening, Dr. Ganguly, sir. I'm Deboprasad Chattopadhyay, faculty in the domain of HR in Globson Business School, Kolkata. You have been a board member in the last company I worked for, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories in Hyderabad. Sir, my question to you is, in all humility, have you or do you experience fear of the unknown? On an informal and lighter note, at my 69 years of age, the last conversation I have with my wife before retiring for the bed is who will go first and who will remain, what will be the state of affairs as a loner. So do you experience, sir, fear of the unknown, and how do you overcome it, sir? This is my humble question to you.
There are two questions. Thank you. Please have a seat. There are two questions. Fear of the unknown or having a conversation with your wife who is going to go first.
Yeah.
I was preoccupied with that as I grew older. And I was more concerned that I would go first because I was older to her. And I was preparing all the dossiers that she would need when I'm no longer there. But it happened the other way around. As for the fear of unknown, I think the fear of unknown prevents you from saying that we are going to possibly face X, Y, Z. And what do we want to do about it? You then develop a strategy regarding the unknown as best as you can. And hopefully that moves you forward, not absolutely or perfectly, but in a large measure and reasonably frequently. That's what life is all about.
Yes. Microphone, yeah.
Dr. Ganguly, thank you for a very insightful conversation so far. My name is Imon Ghosh. I'm an author and a publisher. My question to you, sir, is references also Dr. Martin Luther King. Another quote that he had, "I have a dream." So my question to you is, what is your dream for India moving forward? I mean, if there's at least one thing you'd like for India, what would it be? Thank you, sir.
My greatest dream, if that's what you want to know, you don't mistake it for a nightmare. My greatest dream is that I want to see the number of people who go to bed hungry to be significantly reduced, if not eliminated. If I said eliminated, that would be impractical. But if it can be significantly reduced, that is the dream and my passion, which I will not be around to see. Thank you for asking that question.
Hello. Good
Yes,
evening,
yes, go
sir.
ahead. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Myself, Kamal Dani, I'm a life member CMA. I'm honored to have an opportunity to talk to you, and my congratulations on your publication of this book. And I'm a consultant and also a palmist also. Now, I'm using Hindusthan Unilever brands as my family for more than 4 decades or 5 decades. And what is, in your opinion, you have spent on top of it, and Mr. Lahiri also, that what is the secret of success of Lux, brand Lux as a bathing soap, still people are using after so many decades? And another question, I'm just, what Mr. Kakkar said, I'm same thing. Are the Indian corporates afraid of political party and politicians? There is no comparison between India and USA, but the US corporates are very, very powerful. The chairman of the US corporates, even the president of US is afraid of them. I may be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm making a wrong statement, but this is my view. But in India, no corporates are raising any questions on the wrong decisions taken by the politicians on several matters like taxes or a lot of other policies. Sir, your valued opinion. I thank you very much for listening to my question. Yeah.
No, thank you very much. No, I've answered that question already. You see, criticizing a politician does not bring solutions. You're looking for solutions. Therefore, you do not want, do you want publicity or do you want a solution? That is the whole question. I don't want to compare with America. We are in India, we are Indians, and that is the way we work. And that is where it started in joint families in the old days. There was a private consensus. There was no public, misdemeanor. As for using Hindusthan Lever products for so many years, I can only say thank you very much, because that makes me more comfortable that I will continue to get the pension till I'm alive.
Okay. Anyway, I have a small announcement to make. Ladies and gentlemen, we are supposed to close at now. But I have requested Dr. Ganguly and sought his indulgence to bear with us if we exceed by a few minutes. So those who are waiting to ask their questions, please get ready. You can shoot them out another 5-10 minutes. We will. Okay.
Good evening, Dr. Ganguly. My name is Anirudhha Sen. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Jardine Henderson, one of the companies which is one of the oldest in India, as well as it is 75 years old in Calcutta. Now, I've got a very pertinent question. Like, you have built a lot of people in your career, and one of your team members is sitting here who is questioning you also, one of the eminent team members. What is the quality which you have in your team? How did you identify that these will be the people who will take you and the company to the next level? Because there will be not many people at the same levels. Or is it like that you have pulled up somebody up the socks so that he has built up today? Because I think it's a more challenging environment to build a below par person to a much above average, rather than a person who is already at the peer.
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. And to build up the obviously talented people is far more important than to discover talent in those who are not even aware of their talent. So the greater joy is to discover people who do not know how good they are, and to challenge them with tasks which are stretching, which are tough, and being very honest with them is that I think you are going to be able to do it. But if you fail, and I was told that I was being pushed into the water at the deep end, but nobody was taking responsibility for whether I will swim out of it or whether I will drown. So you have to be very honest with people who have the potential, but something is holding them back. And to talk to them and say that I think you have got this quality. I'm going to give you this assignment, which is very, very tough. And it's up to you whether you wish to take it and move forward or whether you feel up. But think about it and come back. And it has happened many times that you have to light the fire under some of the talented people. And it happens. It happens. The thing that I want to share with this audience is very simple. Hindusthan Lever Company was, even before I joined, and remains, as I have retired several decades ago, an uncompromising commitment to meritocracy. Otherwise, you could not build up this company to where it was. There is no compromise, no favors, no disfavors, no personal likes and dislikes.
Thank you. So although we unfortunately don't have Gopal with us today, he's on a flight. He said he would try to join, but he could not. But we have another old friend whom you know very well,
Utpal.
Mr. Utpal Sengupta here.
I saw Utpal.
I'll ask Utpal Utpal, if you have one question to ask Dr. Ganguly, I'm sure he will love to talk to you.
Don't force him to ask a question.
Good evening, Dr. Ganguly. It's a pleasure to see you.
Take it a little closer.
Yeah. While you were obviously a person from technology originally, you later got most of your success as a people's person. Would you like to talk about the importance of people management in organizations?
Well, Utpal, where would technology be without the people? I remember, Utpal, that Bardeen and Shokle won the Nobel Prize in 1957 for the discovery of semiconductor. But all the pioneers who followed them to where we are today are possibly the richest seam of intellectuals in the world. And I think this transformation that has taken place since 1957, so how many? About 70 odd years, has no comparable period in history has humankind changed as much as they have done in the last half century. And that was the discovery of and now the second discovery that is taking place, Utpal, and that is the incurable cancers are now curable or almost curable by gene transfer. Are breakthroughs in technology by people. These technologies did not happen by themselves. They were thought out. Imagine the imagination of people. And therefore, even in the company which sells soaps and detergents, it is the imagination of people which brings about transformation. I don't know whether I've answered your question, but I'm glad you asked it.
Thank you.
Right. You want to ask a question, right? Go ahead, please.
Evening, sir. My name is Pradosh Sen. I worked all my life for a small tea company, which today is the largest of its kind in the world. It's based in Calcutta. It is 162 years old, and it exists in its original form, which it was the way it was established. I don't have any questions for you, but I've heard so much about you. You are really like an iconic figure to me. And all that you've said this evening just proves what I've heard about you all my life. People have been asking you about your ethos, about your mantra. It's there, what you say. You're a people's person, and you embody everything that a great leader should be. Humble, kind, considerate, and give the credit to the team. Fantastic. Congratulations. May God bless you.
Yeah. Thank you. And that will be the last question, because there's a small little thing after that, so please.
I'm K.S. Adhikari. I run a small engineering company in Kolkata. I would reckon, after hearing you all this time, that you have taken the most sensible decision of not going into politics. You have done whatever is best suited to your intellectual capabilities, and we are very proud of you.
Thank you. Right.
Just for your support.
And Dhruvo, would you like to ask a question? You've met Dr. Ganguly. Dhruvo today is the CEO of Anandavaya Patrika, AVP.
Good evening, sir. Yeah. So I'd just end by this question just came to me hearing how all of us out here consider you as definitely a leading light and an icon, at least those of us who are professional. So my question to you would be, who would have been your icon or your inspiration in your journey in life?
Who was my icon?
That's
Well,
an
all,
What are inspiration? Which are?
I think if you were to, if I were to name a single person, is that what you're asking for? Then I would choose Prakash Tandon. If you were to ask me that were there more than people, then I would say that I was inspired by Prakash Tandon, Vasant Rajadakshan, T. Thomas. They were my inspirations. I did not agree with them all the time, but they continued to inspire me. I mean, I would be very worried if I agreed with them all the time, and I think they would be worried if I did.
Great. Right. Thank you so much, sir.
So I've come to the end of this program. Most interesting evening that we have had here. And thank you for answering these questions in such a candid fashion and with your ready acceptance of diverse views. Now we have to close, bring down the curtains this evening. And I'm going to invite him on the stage, Mr. Shenoy. Mr. Shenoy is the current president of the CMA, is the second year running. And he, as you know, CMA is one of our sponsors, apart from Telegraph. He is one of the sponsors and Bengal Club, of course, for the hospitality. So, Mr. Shenoy, over to you.
Good evening, Mr. Ganguly. Well, I work for the Tatas and I've been with the Tatas for the last 3 decades. And let me confess a few little things. So a vote of thanks doesn't necessarily do justice to what we heard in the last hour or so. And let me connect a few little dots from what we heard so far. And for everyone who has been connected in the corporate world, we have just heard a masterpiece or masterclass. Mr. Ganguly, when I just picked up the book from the counter there, and I saw the image on the screen on the book, it was an image of a strict martinet, a person who I thought, and a quick Googling told me that you're a Leo. So I guessed at your heydays, you would have been a roaring CEO. He was. So there's no doubt, right? So you could connect the CEO, roaring CEO. But behind the roar, what we heard today was plenty of gentle doves of peace. And let me connect a few little parts of what we heard. And these are picking up words from what Mr. Ganguly said. Life is being kind to me. I don't have the arrogance of advice. Plenty of gratitude to family and self are some of the words which a true leader emanates, and what we see in the corporate world. It's a wonderful masterclass. Thank you for being there with these words. I think for all of us who aspire to be in the corporate world and try to climb the ladders, humility, impersonified takes you to a long way, right? Thank you for this piece of attitude or culture, what we would see. It's often said, it's important to know what to do, but also important to know what not to do. Knowing not to be astray was the second piece. And what mistakes one makes and be humble to admit it. And let's pick up the second nugget, what we heard today. Planning your future depends upon somebody else. I've been in the corporate world myself, and 51%, only one little point which I would perhaps build on the point which you said, 51% of the corporate moves are done by the individual, 49% by the company. So the 49% of what your colleagues, your bosses, your subordinates carve out for you, you have no clue to do it, but that's where you are. You would love to make your plans, but there's someone else who's there to shape them. So do plan your future, but you know that it depends on someone else to make it. The third piece, which I felt was wonderful, people who develop other people. And I thought when you said that, what brings you and what makes you the most, I think the question which Mr. Lahiri asked was what makes you the most pride, or what gives you the biggest pride? And there's nothing like you say, that gentleman there was my protege, that guy was my CEO, or that's the CEO in the making, and that you could see it emanate from the names which you alluded to. People who develop other people, responsible for successes, and the kind of names which you said were wonderful points again. When you look back at failures in life and look back at the question which is asked again, Mr. Lahiri said, what are the various failures? And what the point which we responded back? Well, it was not about a failure, but about seeing life from a different perspective. Often we see what we think is our view is right. Somebody else sees it from a different view altogether. And perhaps stepping into somebody else's shoes and being a little more empathetic could make you a great CEO. Thank you for it. Well, in the book, you did mention the tipping point. I just glanced through a book, and you're first at the age of 15, when you had a tipping point, when you had to get into Jai Hind College. Life has plenty of tipping points for us, but every time you have a tipping point, I'm sure you reflect back what brought you here, didn't get you there. At the last, if I look back at the book and see Afterness, and I'm reminded of a Hindi shairi. Well, I know I'm a South Indian, I'm in the area of Bengal, and Hindi doesn't get along too well with it, but let me try and translate it to you. It says, Zindagi bhar galib, yahi bhool karta raha. Zindagi bhar galib, yahi bhool karta raha. Dhool chehre pe thi, par aina saaf karta raha.
Wow.
जिंदगी भर गालिब यही भूल करता रहा, धूल चेहरे पे थी पर आईना साफ करता रहा. And for all of you who have just witnessed it and are getting on to your careers, you know you don't have to necessarily wipe the mirror, you need to wipe a little face. On that note, thank you very much for a wonderful session. On behalf of the CMA, we've got a small little token of love and gratitude. I will have it delivered to your place. And Mr. Lahiri, thank you very much for conducting what I thought was an exceptional session and a masterclass in itself. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, sir.
So I think Mr. Shena has said everything that he had to, we wanted to. So kudos to him. He's always this good. You know, today he was even better than he is. And they are asking me to show you this picture. Now, how do I show this? This has been drawn by an artist here locally.
Thank you.
Right. And I think Shina would have been too embarrassed to speak for himself. And therefore, I would like to say, Dhruvo, to you, Telegraph, and to you, Shinoy, the president of the CMA and the management of Bengal Club, thank you very, very much for making this such a successful and interesting evening. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good night. Oh, just a little token, 1 minute. For you. Oh, for me. Oh. Sorry. Right, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oh. Thank you. Bahadur. राम आया? राम उधर जाता है, चेंज करता है, फिर ड्रिंक देगा. हाँ? थैंक यू.